Gonna give Councillor Tan 60 seconds. Good morning, everyone. I will now call the June 18th, 2024 Committee of the Whole meeting to order. The time is 11:01 a.m. I would like to acknowledge that the City of Maple Ridge carries out its business on the traditional unceded territory of the Katzie First Nation and the Kwantlen First Nation. Madam Clerk, can you please provide us with an overview of the meeting procedures?
Good morning. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available to the public for payback on our website in accordance with Council Policy 3.12. Committee of the Whole is the initial venue for council review of information to ensure that council can debate and vote on issues at a future council meeting. No voting takes place on bylaws or resolutions during Committee of the Whole. For voting purposes, council has been provided with voting cards, green for in favor, red for opposed, and yellow for point of order. For members of the public who would like to speak, an opportunity will be available later in the meeting during the community forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please? Moved by Councillor Dewick, seconded by Councillor Carreras. Are there any amendments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That has carried unanimously. Next, we have the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of June 4th, 2024. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes, please? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Dewick. Are there any corrections or discussion needed for the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That has carried unanimously.
The first item on the agenda today is application 2019-255-RZ for properties located at 12297 222 Street, 22175 and 22185 123 Avenue to rezone from RS1 to CD 6-21. Staff are in attendance to present.
Thank you very much. I know we have staff. I know we have some folks from the development proposal as well. So thank you all for being here this morning, and please go ahead when you're ready.
Good morning, Chair and Council. The application is designated conservation and urban residential in the existing OCP and is proposed to remain the same. The existing zoning is RS1, which is residential detached, and the proposed zoning is a comprehensive development zone that integrates medium density mixed use residential and market apartment residential. The gross site area is approximately 10,033 square meters, and the net site area is 5,444. There is a substantial environmentally sensitive component to the site. The proposal is to accommodate an 8-story rental apartment building with 106 residential units to be utilized by seniors and persons with disabilities. A group child care center is proposed as as well ancillary office space are proposed. Here is the site map. It shows that there are 2 arteries of a major creek running through the site. This shows the context in the community plan, which designates the site as urban residential, and it is bounded by urban residential on the north and by low-rise apartments to the east. Here is the neighborhood context plan as an air photo. There's a history to the site, which dates back to 2022. Originally, an application was received to rezone the subject property from the RS1 to a comprehensive development zone that also included medium density mixed-use residential and market apartments. The original application was 7 stories and contained a mix of 55 market rental units and 49 affordable rental units for a total of 104 units. The original application targeted the affordable residential units, 49 towards persons with disabilities and seniors. It also had a component of a childcare facility with an approximate indoor area of 269 square meters to accommodate 36 children. This application proposed 114 parking stalls, which was a requested variance or reduction of 77 stalls. On January 25th, 2022, City Council granted 3rd reading to the original application following a public hearing. This application had vehicular access crossing over the BC Fortis right-of-way, and part of the underground parkade structure encroached into the right-of-way. The Fortis BC right-of-way runs east-west across the 2 properties fronting 123rd Avenue. And this is a no-build covenant area because it's a statutory right-of-way. The revised application is to rezone the subject properties from RS1 to also a CT zone. The revised application now proposes an 8-story apartment building with a mix of 52 market rental and 54 affordable rental units for a total of 106 rental dwelling units targeted towards persons with disabilities and seniors. The subject properties are in the urban boundary west of the town center, designated urban residential and conservation. Currently, the subject properties are not facing a major corridor. Thus, the properties are subject to the neighborhood residential infill policies. Accordingly, an official community plan text amendment to Schedule A, Chapter 3, Section 319 is required to allow a maximum height of the 8 stories for the proposed facility. It is also in conformity with the supporting housing policies of sections 331, 32, 422, and 425, and 436 of the OCP. Adjustments to the urban residential and conservation OCP boundaries are required as shown in the attached illustration. The boundaries have been confirmed both by environmental consultants, geotechnical consultants, and our staff. So a revised application proposes an FSR of 1.77. The revised application proposes a group childcare facility with an approximate indoor area of 328 square meters to accommodate now 47 children, subject to the support of Fraser Health. All the proposed rental units are designed as per the CMHC accessibility design standards to be universally accessible. Affordable units will be rented out at the affordable market rate as determined by the rent appraisals as determined within the city of Maple Ridge in compliance with CMHC's definition of affordability effective at the time. The table below illustrates the residential units distribution on each floor, including the affordable units. As you can see here, the affordable units are proposed on the lower floors, and the market-oriented units are on the upper floors. The vehicle access is from 222 Street. A total of 120 off-street parking spaces are provided on the site, with 26 spaces located on the ground level and 94 stalls in the 2 levels of underground parking. The table below details the proposed parking stalls versus current and proposed parking bylaw requirements. So the key point here is that under the standard RM2 zone, 203 spaces would be required. And here, under the proposal, 120 are proposed with a reduction of 80, a variance of 83 parking spaces requested. While the total requested variance for parking stalls under the new bylaw cannot be determined at this time, the requested variance specifically for the rental residential component of the subject development could significantly decrease from 75 stalls to 21 stalls. The subject application proposes 32 long-term and 33 short-term bike spaces, which is in excess of what is currently required. In addition, the following attributes are included in the design of the building. It's insulated concrete forms for exterior and interior walls and floor systems, solar cladding to the facade of the building, and a pitched roof system, which further accommodates solar panels. Staff recommends that the additional charge stations for electric vehicles with the anticipated excess electricity generated by the solar panels be provided by the applicant for the future residents of the building. The site-specific CD 621 zone proposes the following changes from the RM2 zone. This is due to the dimensions of the property. And the key items here is that under the custom zone, ancillary office space is accommodated, group childcare is accommodated, short-term accommodation is not permitted. The height of the building is 8 stories from 4 stories, and the setbacks in 2 cases are relaxed, which is the front and the rear are slightly reduced, but the interior and exterior setbacks are substantially more than the 7.5. The proposed CD zone has been drafted to minimize the need for any variances associated with this application. Should any building variances be required, they will be subject of a future council report at the development permit and development variance stage. A variance to the subdivision and development control bylaw is required to reduce the road dedication from 2.5 to 1.83 along 123 Avenue. The reduction in road dedication is required due to the Fortis transmission gas main. The requested variance is supported by the engineering department as the applicant has demonstrated that all required services can be accommodated within the road right-of-way. Here's an illustration of the site plan that shows the conservation area to the west and the east. To the north, to the point, is where the on-site amenity area will be provided. There will be a walkway provided connecting the east and west sides of the building, all through the naturally planted area. And there will be amenity facilities at the north end of the site. This demonstrates the various types of zones that will need to be acknowledged on the site. The green area is a no-build covenant zone where the creeks traverse the site. The area in the light brown is a partial non-disturbance area. There will be a covenant here that restricts use on part of it, and part of it will allow for the maintenance of native planting and to accommodate some on-site stormwater management. A simple illustration of the building setbacks showing to the property line. Illustrations of elevations of the buildings. So this is a south elevation facing 123 Avenue. There are also renderings which are more authentic or accurate. This is the north elevation. East. and west. Here are the architect's renderings. So here's the northeast view. There is a mural painted on the side facing 222 Street. The west view. The solar panels on the roof, and finally the north view. Recommendations: that the second and third reading of the official community plan amending bylaw 7803/2021 be rescinded. That the second and third reading of the zone amending the bylaw be rescinded. That the official community plan amending bylaw 7803/2021 be given second reading as amended and forwarded to public hearing. That zone amending bylaw number 7812/2021 be given second reading as amended and forwarded to public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does council have questions for staff or the developer? Councillor Youssef, I believe I saw your hand.
Yes, Madam Chair, I was actually moving the recommendations.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Councillor Carreras, thank you.
I'll just note that the recommendation is what's on the screen. The individual readings of the bylaw are what will be considered at the next regular meeting. The motion is just to forward it.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you,
thank you.
staff. Does the developer want to come forward and take a few minutes? I know you've brought some things with
Samples,
you.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for the opportunity. Thank you, council members. This project has started 5 years ago. It's been a challenge. We've been working towards it. The whole project started with my son being an autistic son. So the development disabilities mainly developed towards people with development disability, autism, and organizations such as that. We have added senior citizens. There is actually one other group, war veterans and stuff like that. We can expand a little bit more of the affordability, because obviously we have to make sure the units are filled, because if it stays vacant and we don't have people to fit in there, it's going to sit vacant and we can't rent it out to regular market. So we are looking at the larger units more oriented towards immigrants that require the 3-bedroom units, and then veterans that require if they do require. Those would be the other two harmonious groups that I think we can bring in that will assist us to make sure we fill up the capacity. If you notice,
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I just get you to identify yourself?
oh yes, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I should have asked.
My name is Shaheen Sohaili. I am the managing director of Simplex Meadows Development, which is the parent company that owns the land. Obviously, this is under our holding corporations because of tax purposes. Our tax accountants tell us that we have to do this. So I don't understand. I leave the accountants to accounting, even that I got a degree from it. I still don't make sense to me. Anyways, so we've been working on this, and even when we went back, negotiated with the city because of the FortisBC right-of-ways, where the problem came about, they turned around and said, even that the property directly to the east of us, the two adjacent properties that are apartment buildings, have parking on the right-of-way and paved, we're not going to give you permission to do that. But we might consider under certain rules, because you have had this application at the city, but it will take you 12 to 18 months for us to consider that. And if we do give you that, it's going to cost you have to upgrade our pipes. And I said, give me a ballpark where the number we are looking for the upgrade of your pipes are. And they threw a number of $750,000 to $1 million to me for changing the pipe underneath the property. And I'm just saying, we're talking about Canadian dollars or we're talking about something else? And he said, no, Canadian dollars. And I said, I can build a whole floor for that price. And that's when I came back to your former director of planning, Chuck, and we started brainstorming how we can solve the problem, because that was unreasonable and it would delay the project so long. I have brought you some samples of stuff that you could see. Sorry. This is the quad lock product, and it's styrofoam. And this gray color is supposedly concrete. It's made out of styrofoam right now, but this is concrete. This is the quad deck. So this would be the floor system, okay? And so this would be the floor system, and that's how the concrete would be poured. The rebars are in there, and that will support the whole thing. If you look at the interior plans, individual units, between individual units is actually concrete with the styrofoam. So if you look at this sideways, this would be the wall system down here, if you can look at it. And that would be poured cement all the way down. And that would allow it to, so there will be, it's a 6-inch cement between individual apartment units, and then styrofoam on either side, and then drywall. So for energy efficiency, for sound transformation, so everything wise, it's going to be a very advanced building. One thing that Maple Ridge, if we get the permission and we are granted with this, City of Vancouver, if I'm correct, and last I checked, was they approved only 200 units of affordable units. Their population base is 6 times the number of Maple Ridge City. With this project, you will be at 1/4 of their affordable units. But just one, their numbers are hitting 10 units, 15 units. With 1 unit, we are hitting 54 affordable units in the market. Even that we increased the height, the extra units that we got, we threw it into the affordable units. We could have easily said, we will do market rent.
I need you to go back to the microphone.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. I apologize. What I was saying is that the affordable units we threw the extra units back into the affordability. As a developer, we could have easily said, hey, we'll throw it in a market rental. We'll make more money out of the market rent. But it made sense to bring more affordable units. I have brought you the samples of the solar panels, and I can pass that on. This is an active, you brought the wrong one. Okay. These are the solar panels, and you see the mural on the side of the building. That is an artwork of a person with autism, and we can actually give any artwork to be done. So every single panel on the exterior, including the railings, is producing electricity. We will be producing at its height, at its best moment, 450 kilowatts of power per day. This building will require 900 kilowatts a day. So at its best, we could most probably be 50% efficient of producing. So we will hit net zero and more. So overall, this building is going to bring a uniqueness that has not yet been built in Lower Mainland. It will bring notoriety to the City of Maple Ridge. It will make your project, your community proud. We're working because it came as a passion for my kid. It makes no dollar sense. I know people say, why am I doing? Some of my partners say, are you crazy? But sometimes as parents, we do certain things that makes no dollars and cents. So that's all I can tell you. Now, if there's any questions that you have regarding the project or anything, I can help. I do have my team members. Our architect is here, but if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer your
Thank
questions.
you. Thank you very much for being here and for having all of your team. Does council have any questions? Councillor Carreras.
Thank you. Just a quick question around childcare. It's really great to see, can only ask questions. It's good to see childcare. I have a question. So in the report, it says the space is based on 47 children. Is it just 47 in general? Or do we know if there's different space for those that are like 0 to 3, 3 to 5 out of school care?
We have 3,500 square feet of floor space.
Mhm.
Based on the requirement, there's potentially we could have 47. Then we have to make an application to Fraser Health. Fraser Health will look at our plans. If we can get 47, we will get 47. Then what is the age groups? They will allocate all those numbers based on what I understand. My architect has done few of the daycares, and he says we have to leave it very general, because if you tie it and then it doesn't, then we get the CD zoning. Then we are
Yeah, no,
stuck.
that's great. I was just wondering if 47 was based on a specific
square
age
footage,
group or
no.
not, but it's just based on square
It's just
footage.
based
It
on
could
square-
be any, okay. Yeah, I was
Anything
just
and
curious.
whatever the
what the
market
formula was.
requires.
Yeah, and then you'll make the decisions
Yes,
later. Okay.
and part of the requirements most probably will be some younger, some older, and
Okay.
everything. And we have actually, if you notice on the rendering, you notice there was a blue area, like a sun deck type of a thing, picture. That area is the playground for the daycare.
Mhm.
And so they have their own separate playground, and they have two areas, one covered, one open. So in case of rain, they still can go outside and play. So we have two areas for them that is separate than the small playground that we have directly to the north, that is for the building alone. So that they're not mixed. They have their own separate elevators, the daycare center. They have their own separate entrance, so it's secured, so people can't come in. And technologically, we are going to do this very advanced, trying to make sure security and everything is taken care of.
Okay, thanks.
And sorry, one other thing that I
Okay.
forgot to mention. I know the staff has not marked it, but on the ground floor parkade, we have 18-foot ceilings. We have proposed, unfortunately, they can't because there's no bylaws or somehow reasons. We are proposing double-decker parkades with scissor lift car parking. So we will add another 14 parking stalls that we will do that. We have proposed it, but they couldn't count it. So in reality, it would be 14 more parking stalls that are not counted in here, but it's going to be there. We're looking at a new technology that actually could increase it by another 14, but I can't say anything until I have the CSA approval. There is a unit out there, but that doesn't have the CSA. We will look at that if actually we can, because in the 18-foot high, we can actually get 3. They're talking about it, but we don't have the certification yet. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have a few more.
Oh.
Sorry. And this is probably going forward and more for staff as you really nail down some of the pieces. It does look like only because daycare has, you just need to have drop off and pick up space for daycare. And it does, if I'm seeing this, it looks like there is sort of an in and out drop off space. There's good flow. Okay, just getting the nod that that's still the case. And then I have a question as, so to look at folks to move into the space, right? It is definitely a needed space in our community. Will you be working with different nonprofit organizations to identify folks to move into the space?
Well, part of the CMHC's requirement for the development disability people, we've been partnered from day one with Milieu Family Services.
Yep.
They're not nonprofit, but they are organization that support people with development
I know
disability.
Milieu, yeah.
And they support my son, and they have agreed. And that's one of the reasons why we have office spaces for them so they could support. That's one of the requirements from CMHC, that whoever is doing the support, they have to have office space available in the building to give support so the people don't need to leave. There were
Mhm.
certain requirements under that CMHC co-investment program. You have to be 3 kilometers away from hospital. You have to be 1 kilometer away from a library, 1 kilometer from employment. So this building fits all the criteria, tick mark, tick mark, tick mark. And so that's why it is very, and it was reasonable, the price of land. You can't build an affordable rental and decide buy the most expensive piece of land and say, oh, I'm going to make it. Numbers don't lie.
So eventually there will be space within there for a nonprofit
Yes.
to be whether, and that's still to be decided. You'll work
Yes.
through those pieces. So you will be working with nonprofits to find.
Yes. Yes.
Great. Perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
I'm good.
Thank you, Counselor Curris. Mayor Remy?
Thank you for both presentations. Fascinating, but mind you, I don't know nothing about the inner workings of styrofoam and concrete. I leave that for our staff to say whether it's a thumbs up or not. But my questions are more directed to staff at this point. Yeah, I'm a little confused with parking. Are they dropping parking by 83 stalls?
That is correct.
That is correct. And so what is the thought? Because there is no transit. I don't believe there's transit down there. So what is the thought? Is that people would move in without cars, or that because of the disabled community?
Because of the disabled community and seniors, it will have a lower ratio of cars per unit.
Okay. Would there, I think, just to follow up on Councillor Carreras' comment of, will there be room for, because I would imagine there'll be shuttles coming and going. Would there be adequate room for the shuttles
Yes.
to drop off and pick up?
Yes. At the entry level, it's like you said, it's 18 feet, and it's a flow through, so there's good circulation.
Okay. The other question I have is obviously this project has been around for a while. I'm trying to understand if we are at the point now where everything has been resolved and we have the ability to move forward. I don't know. I mean, I'm hearing some things. Is the Fortis piece resolved now?
FortisBC will still be required to execute the legal plan of subdivision, and that will be a requirement, a condition of fourth reading. And our understanding is that staff have coordinated this with Simplex Meadows consulting team. They're fully aware of it, and they're working towards a deadline.
So looking at all the challenges that have been in the past, would you say that all of them have been addressed to the point where there is a path forward?
Yes.
Okay. And on the developer side, is that path forward clear to you, sir?
Yes, Your Worship. I can tell you my last conversation with Mr. Olson, which is the FortisBC representative. Yesterday, we had made an application because the area where the FortisBC right-of-way is currently going to be grass and paving stones. So we made an application to give us permission to build over there. And he promised me on my birthday next week, he will give me a gift of a permit to do the work. That we negotiated that out of him. I said, at least you can make my day. So once I
don't know that we're giving away birthday gifts, but okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So I just said, okay, well, thank you very much. He promised me he will give me a permit. So that should give enough for the city staff that Fortis has no issue. And then we are working with their legal department because basically it's 2 lots with their right-of-way going over 2 lots. And now the 2 lots are going to change direction. There will be lot 1 and lot 2. Lot 1 is where we will be doing our construction. Lot 2 is the front portion, which allows us to give the grass area. Because if we wanted to dedicate the land to you, to the city, that meant another 18 months for them to get special permission. By doing this maneuver, their right of way still stays. Nobody has to give any permission, it's a special permit, and it just changing hands. And that's why we came up with solutions. So we've worked every angle, however we could, skinning the cat from the head to the bottom.
We don't like skinning cats.
But anyways, but they're all saying, but we figured it out.
So my only concern at this point is to make sure that your people, your engineers, your design people, and our people are all on the same page, because we don't want to repeat of
Oh,
this
no, trust me,
moving forward.
I
So
can't afford
I want to
any.
make sure that we're all clear on that.
Let's
so
just
that-
say, if this doesn't work, ain't gonna work, because there's no more, I don't have any more energy after 5 years. I've done all my battles. I can fight. And I've called in all my favors in.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Counselor Tan?
Thanks, Madam Chair, and I appreciate it. That was a question I had too in the back of my head. I just wanted to make sure I understand through you, Madam Chair, to staff about the parking changes. Could you help me walk through I'm seeing in this report minus 84 spaces versus an existing bylaw and differences versus a proposed bylaw. And I know there's a note in here that says that we can't say for sure right now before the bylaw actually passes what the proposed bylaw would look like. But can you just walk me through what the nature of the variances required would be?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going the wrong way. I apologize. There we go. In the yellow is the current RM2 parking requirements. So if you go by the standard RM2 parking requirements, it requires 203 parking spaces. The top line, rental residential units, you'll see that under the standard zone, 159 is being required, and this has been reduced to 100 due to the special needs. Under the visitor, 22 are provided and are required, and 6 are proposed. Group childcare, 17 required, 11 proposed. Ancillary office, 5 and 3 are proposed, which gives you your comparative total of 203 being required, but 120 is being provided. So there is your difference of the 83 units. But under the draft parking bylaw, it has different ratios, and this has not yet to be confirmed. So that's the bottom paragraph where it says it could be decreased by anywhere from 75 to 21 stalls, but we are processing them under the current standards of the bylaws. Is that
Thank
okay?
you, that's helpful.
Thank you. I had a couple of questions as well for staff. It's in regards to the stream setback, and there's a request for a variance. So I just wanted to ask for some information. I guess just starting with typically we require a 15-meter setback, and can you just talk a little bit about why we specifically request 15 meters?
15 meters from top of the bank is our standard in the city of Maple Ridge. In this case, if we had taken the 15 meters from the top of the bank, there would not have been substantially enough land to site a building of this type on. So these standards can be relaxed, and they have been relaxed to the maximum provincial standards, which is in compliance with provincial, is it RAR regulations? RAR regulations. And so there is a restrictive covenant over both the west and the east sides. And then there is a hybrid covenant, which allows the developer to plant native plant material and to maintain that area, as well as to integrate some stormwater management practices.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, just looking at the report, it seems like a fairly significant variance, and I appreciate the topography of the site, is what it is. Is this, do you know if we've permitted variances down to 8.5 meters on other projects in the area?
No, not in this case. This has been given special consideration to consider the use of the site.
Thank you. And just finally, is this variance, has this changed from the previous proposal? So the one that went forward in 2022, was that the variance that was proposed at that time?
Yeah, it's approximately the same. Yes, the intent is the same.
Is the same. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Can I say something about
Yes,
that? Sorry,
please, go
I
ahead.
apologize. So there's no misunderstandings or anything, because being involved in the project there was a reduction of 1.5 meters on either side of the building because requirement by fire departments, we need a pathway to be able to walk around the building, fire exits. So that's where the relaxation came about. Before it was 10 meters and 15 meters. That 1.5 meter requirement for fire department for safety purposes was reduced to there, and we still are under the raw requirement. And
Right.
I must thank Mr. Stott that has worked with my environmental engineer and with our team, trying to figure out a solution, because if we had gone to the standard of 50, there wouldn't even be a doghouse being built on this property. Basically, it will crisscross each other and the land would be worthless.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Okay. Councillor Tan, did you have another question? Yeah, go ahead.
If that's allowed for second round, Madam Chair.
I think we are done with first round. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just wanted to follow up on that point there about the 15-meter setback. And I'm hearing sort of the developer point that there's just not enough land there for the 15-meter setback on either sides. I'm just wondering through you to staff whether, what else can be done to ensure the sort of the viability of the salmon bearing stream, just understanding that that's, a concern for Maple Ridge residents that we want to protect our water courses. What can be done here?
Thank you for that, Mayor and Council. So one of the pieces that is a principle behind our practices from an environmental perspective is we are always seeking for a net habitat gain with respect to the natural environment. In this particular application, we are working with the environmental professional of record to take a look at the existing remaining protected areas that we have on site on both the east side and the west side. We're looking at both enhancement and restoration opportunities. For example, removing some of the previous historical structures that were encroaching into some of those setback areas. We're also looking at compensation for encroachment into some of the variance areas. So through working with the professionals of record and with the senior environmental agencies, we are looking at in-stream functional improvements to the complexing of the habitat, to looking at energy dissipation devices to reduce water flows and erosion, in addition to water quality components that are going to be in stream. So through a combination of enhancements, restoration, and compensation, we'll be making up for any deficiencies in terms of the quantitative habitat losses.
Thank you for that. I appreciate the explanation. And just to make sure I, sort of to maybe put at least my mind on easier. So are we confident, are staff confident that the sort of the reduction from 15 meters to 8.5 will, given the other compensation measures, are we confident that this will not negatively impact the salmon stream?
We are confident at this time that the improvements will not result in a a net loss of habitat. As for reasons we've talked about previously, because of the density and the size, this is a little bit of a unique situation in that we are not providing as much compensation for the habitat loss. So we will not be reaching our standard net habitat gains that we typically would get with new development. However, I do want to emphasize again, there's been considerable effort into the enhancements, restoration, and in-stream compensation that has been provided on site. So there will result in, I believe, to be a benefit to the overall quality of the habitat on this site.
Thank you for the information. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tan. Okay, seeing no further hands, we'll call the question. All those in favor of moving this to the next council meeting? Any opposed? That has passed unanimously. Thank you all. We'll move on to the next item.
The next item is item 6.1, budget increase for 123 Avenue roadway and utility improvements project between Lady Street and 216 Street, and staff are in attendance.
Thank you. Please go ahead. That's, yes, no, just take a few minutes to, yeah, no, take your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Today we'll be talking about a budget increase for our 123rd Avenue roadways and utilities improvement project between Lady Street and 216. We'll talk about the project overview and scope, as well as the projected budget and costs. We have an alternative in the event that we're unable to approve the budget increase request, along with our recommendation. So the project scope will include a new multi-use path, street lighting, new sidewalk, as well as road repaving of 123rd Avenue between 216 and Lady Street. We're replacing existing drainage and sanitary mains that are near the end of their useful life. As well, we're extending new drainage main on 123rd between between Creston and Lady Street. Currently, there's no drainage main there, just a drainage ditch. In the immediate term, the improvements will eliminate the drainage ditch and allow residents to connect to the city's drainage network as they redevelop their homes, or if they wish to connect immediately. By constructing all of this work as part of one project, we will leverage the cost efficiencies as well as minimize the disturbance to the neighborhood and limit it to one project. Here's an overview of our project scope, and the project is located between 3 elementary schools. Ladyview Elementary is located 2 blocks to the west of Lady and 123rd Avenue. Glenwood Elementary is located 2 blocks south of 123rd Avenue, and Maple Ridge Secondary is 2 blocks southeast of 123rd and 216th Street. 123rd Avenue is a collector road, and it does see considerable foot traffic given that it's located between the 3 schools we mentioned. The road and pedestrian upgrades under this project will separate vehicle traffic from pedestrians and cyclists, thereby improving safety for those cyclists and pedestrians. The 123rd Ave corridor is it's identified as a key corridor in our strategic transportation plan. So with this project, we will be creating some of the key walking and cycling linkages within the city. In terms of project costs, engineering costs, BC Hydro, TELUS, relocations, City of Maple Ridge Waterworks, and property acquisition will make up about $900,000 of the projected costs. Our construction tender came in just under $9 million, and the overall project the overall project costs are anticipated to be just under $11.3 million. And this is above our existing budget of approximately $8.6 million. And some of the reasons for why we're over that budget is we continue to have an extremely busy construction industry. There's been continuing escalation in construction costs over the past year. On this project, given that we're in a congested residential neighborhood, the traffic control requirements will be quite a bit more than our typical projects, because we do need to, well, not typical projects, but given that this is in a residential neighborhood, we need to continue to maintain access for homes during the construction, and that does lead to higher traffic control costs. We're requesting a $1.4 million contingency on this project. That's 15%. This is higher than our typical contract contingency on a capital project of 10%. Reasons for this include that given that we're in a busy or in a residential neighborhood, the driveway and landscaping restoration costs for projects such as this can vary quite a bit from what we anticipate at design stage. A recent example, we built our 117 Avenue MUP between 207 and Lady Street last year. And as we were constructing the works and as we're engaging with residents, the restoration requirements can vary from what we anticipate at design stage. And we want to minimize the impact to residents. So those costs can increase. And another aspect of this is that 123rd Avenue is quite an old corridor, so our utilities record information is quite anticipated to be incomplete. So we may find utilities in the ground that weren't anticipated, and there will be additional relocation costs for those. So, in a single instance, additional driveway and landscaping restoration and utility relocation costs can be small, but we have, in the neighborhood of 50 homes along this corridor. So those costs can really add up and eat into a 10% project contingency. That's why we've requested a little bit more on this project. It's important to note that the increased budget request will not lead to any increase in tax rate. That's because the money to complete this project will be via internal transfers from completed projects and additional funding from our drainage reserve accounts. So approximately $1.9 million will be transferred from 2023 projects that are complete that have unused budget. And the remaining approximately $820,000 will come from our drainage reserve. So in the event that we're unable to secure the requested additional funding, the alternative would be to build this project in two phases. The first phase would be delivered now within the available budget, once we engage with our consultant and rescope the work. And the next phase would be delivered upon getting additional funding in the next financial plan. So that would be in a future year in terms of which year we identify the work to advance in. And this photo is an example of what the phasing might look like. The exact boundary will vary, could vary a little bit. We would have to engage with our consultant to confirm how much work can we complete within the available budget and scope accordingly. So our recommendation is to increase the project budget to approximately $11.3 million as shown here, and that will allow us to build the project as it's currently designed, one project, minimizing disturbance to the neighborhood, and it'll also allow us to take advantage of the cost efficiency of delivering it as one project. And that concludes our presentation. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much. Can I have someone move the recommendation, please? Moved by Councillor Carrera, seconded by Mayor Remy. Does council have any questions? Councillor Carrera, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the breakdown in the funding. I'm always the one that asks for the breakdown of things. Just a couple of questions. So the 8.583 was the original budget that was assigned to this project?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to double check because I had to dig a bit to find it. So it's about a 2.7 difference. So the 1.8, so just confirming that those are projects that were in the budget that are complete and that's the leftover funds for it.
Correct. The budget came from about 5 or 6 projects. 5 of them or so are complete. There's one project that is underway, but it is quite overfunded. So we were able to identify transfer from that one as well. And that's a sanitary project that, the contract that's out there is in the range of 1.3 million. And we have about 2.7 million in the budget. So
Great.
we're able to tap that for the sanitary portion.
What happens, what would happen to these funds if this project wasn't over? You weren't asking for additional funds for it. I'm just curious, is the process when we have these additional funds from projects, what happens to it?
Thank you. Through the chair, essentially they go back to the reserve that's noted and are available for future projects.
Thanks. The 821,000, which is the additional funding coming from the Infrastructure Sustainability Reserve drainage, was that already identified for anything, or was that truly just extra funds that haven't been identified for anything?
Thank you. So the Infrastructure Reserve for drainage, this puts it overprescribed in 2024. However, there's available funds in 2025. So given this project spans several years, as many do, I'm not concerned from a cash flow perspective, but it does. So there is capacity in 2025 to fund it.
So there isn't the capacity in 2024. We're approving using funds from a 2025 budget.
Exactly. We're basically overprescribing. Now, the likelihood that all of the projects in that reserve finish by year end is slight, given
what happens if we don't have the funding in the 2025 budget?
So we're committing to this project at this point.
So in 2025, it would be reflected in our taxes that we ask the community for.
Right. So this is the infrastructure funding that's already in place. So it's not an additional tax increase. It's past tax increases associated with the infrastructure replacement. So there is capacity in the existing financial plan.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Tan.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I just want to understand through you, Madam Chair, you talked about a few reasons why there may be cost escalations, like unknown data on the sort of like the quality of the utilities on the ground, for example. And I just wanted to understand, it's close to a 30% increase in the projected budget. What can we do in the future as we look in more extensive engineering projects in our community to ensure that, to the best of our ability, that the projected budgets are accurate?
Yeah. So we do our best to update our unit costing information year in, year out. So we've retroactively for the last couple of years have been adjusting budgeted budgets for projects according to the information we have on the construction industry at the time. Past projects or recent projects that we've completed inform our cost database so that we can continually update that. We also index costs against inflation numbers that are posted so that we can continually update what a project is going to cost. So for example, a project that's brought forward in a financial plan in this year is indexed to the year that we expect to build it in, and then the industry changes, the year that we're going to deliver that work changes. So we do every year when we review our financial plan, we will take a look at the projects that are within the financial plan and adjust them accordingly. And that's sort of the best effort we're able to make to continually adjust those costs. There's certainly the current construction industry that we find ourselves in throughout the region, right? Maple Ridge is not unique in this. I think our colleagues in other municipalities are constantly dealing with similar issues. So it's an industry-wide issue.
Right, there is a challenge industry-wide about managing sort of fluctuating construction costs. I think what I'm trying to understand is, as we, as we proceed with more engineering projects, sort of how to ensure that we have fewer of these discussions moving forward to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
Might you have any suggestions on that?
Yeah, so we have internal processes to avoid tendering when we have insufficient budget. So normally we have, and we've done that in this case where, our team will work with procurement to post the bid. Part of the requirements to post a bid include just validating our pre-tender cost estimate and anticipated project costs against the budget that we have in this project. I think we were coming in fairly close to the pre-tender. We were fairly close in anticipated project costs. And through the tender, we've seen that the tender costs have exceeded our consultant's estimate. So that's one component of why we're over. And the other component being, as we've reviewed project award, we've realized that hey, we do need some additional contingency given some of the unique challenges on this project.
Thank you.
I think the Director of Engineering wanted to speak to that as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Often when we put forward budgets for capital projects, we may be at a Class D cost estimate. And obviously, the further along the design process we get, the accuracy of those cost estimates improves. But generally speaking, Class D cost estimates have a very wide range of -40 and up +50 to their level of accuracy. And that's the best we can do with the level of design we are at when we submit capital projects. As we progress through the design phase, that level of accuracy improves to -20, +20, or even better than that. So it all depends on at what stage we are at in the design process when we submit the capital budget requests. And my understanding for this project is that it was at a Class D cost estimate when it was submitted last year for the 2024 budget.
Thank you. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Remy?
Thank you for the presentation. How do I put this in a question? Okay, so I get that we're not going back to the taxpayer for money because we're taking it from other places. Get that. Public doesn't necessarily see those pieces there. You've mentioned Class D estimates. Again, public doesn't understand that. What are we doing to, and I get the costs are escalating, but what are we doing to ensure that the public is on side with everything that we're seeing? Because right now, we're seeing it across the Lower Mainland. Cost overruns aren't looking very good. So while there's valid reasons for it, what are we doing to help educate our public? Even though we're not taking that money back from, we're not going to the taxpayer for that dollar amount, that we're still spending taxpayer dollars. That makes sense what I just said? Okay. Sorry, I'm not the chair.
Mr. Thompson.
Thank you very much. Couple of points, and just kind of highlighting what was commented earlier. If we're able to do design in 1 year and then construction in the next, we have much better understanding of the costs. What council sees is only the projects that come over budget. So all of the projects that come under, like the savings we've had, it was highlighted earlier, you don't necessarily see the costs of. So it is really just a bit of a skewed perspective in that you only see the overages, right? The risk of increasing our budgets more broadly is that we overcommit funding that we're not going to need. So we're able to do less projects. So it's a bit of a balancing act of how much contingency do you put in. And realistically, I don't think there ought to be a fear of coming to council to adjust and talk about the projects a bit. So that's a bit of the balancing act of capital planning, I guess. I don't know if that answers some of your question.
I would say that it needs to answer some of the questions from the public. Because when we're talking about things like this, terms like accountability come into play. And we need to make sure, again, this is a comment, so I can't comment. So I'm going to come back and say, what are we doing to educate the public about what a Class D estimate is? Nobody knows what that is. So what are we doing to claim that narrative? I'm not against this, but I think people need to understand what it is so that we're not walking into this blind in the future. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, all those, I'll just call the vote on the motion. All those in favor of moving this forward to the next council meeting? Any opposed? That has passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
In the spirit of efficiency, we only have one member of the public attending electronically. So if it's okay, I'll just ask Mahmoud Bashi, if you wish to address council during our community forum, please turn your camera on. Seeing none, I will move to the notice of closed meeting, which is on your screen.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, we have a motion to go into closed. Can I have a mover for this, please? Moved by Mayor Rumi, seconded by Councillor Dewick. All those in favor? Any opposed? That has passed unanimously, and we are now moving into our closed meeting. Thank you.